Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to talk about interviewing Sufi poets. I'll read you what it says on the back cover. For 600 years, Persian writing poets created a renaissance of lyrical expression, a treasury of entertaining and thoughtful word song. I've selected 15 poets from the source book supply of 200. I really had lots and lots of choice. I could put together several more books from that source. It's an 18th century encyclopedic anthology compiled and translated by Joseph von Hammer. If you look at that in an English text, it looks like Joseph von Hammer. Okay, he's the one who did it. I've selected just 15 who amaze me from Joseph von Hammer's encyclopedic anthology. I translate 7 poems by each writer, and in my interviews, I reply to every poem in verse, adding further context in a little blogatelle. So first we have a translation. Then we have a focused reply in verse, and then we have a blogatelle, which may be more verse or may include some prose for a broader context. I do that 7 times for each of the 15 poets, but tonight, because this is a shorter presentation, I am going to limit myself for the most part to only one interview, 3-part interview, as I explained, per poet. And we're going to do it chronologically. And to start out with, I should point out what a Sufi is. Sufi is a mystic. The Sufi movement were mystics, and it's a mysticism that arises from Islam, but tries to transcend not only Islam, but every other scriptural religion. So it's very free-floating and quite boundary breaking. It's path breaking. It's experimental, and it allows for lots of individuality. There are extreme otherworldly Sufis, and there are extreme thisworldly Sufis, and everything in between as well. And we're going to start with one of the more thisworldly type, the famous Omar Khayyam. And his theme that I'm going to look at tonight is love the things of this world. And one of the best is wine. So let's turn to page 43, or rather 41. Here we are, Omar on wine. First, we'll translate it by Hammer. Rather, I'm translating into English from Hammer. The night has chased away the morning's lord. Arise and pour, for wines with bliss accord. Let slumber drunk narcissul eyes begin to shine. Your force too long mere sleep would hoard. In other words, time for a bit of wine. Now, Fitzgerald renders it, I think it's the same thing, I don't know. It may be a different thing altogether. Sometimes Fitzgerald will take a couple lines from one thing in Omar and combine them with some couple lines from another place. Fitzgerald is very free, but he's also very skillful, so people have been forgiving him ever since he wrote. Before the phantom of false morning died, methought a voice within the tavern cried, when all the temple is prepared within, why nods the drowsy worshiper outside? And here's my reply to the both of those. Why, when the temple is prepared within, need one who thought that awe and God are kin, turn frightened from the wedding feast away, where he through wine the higher bliss might win? My heart has known how parching heat of day the mercy dew would nourishing allay. With rose aroma, joy will she outpour, while nightingales enthrall in lunar lay. A lay is an old word for a song. We shall not die while Dian we adore. That's Diana, the moon. Since give is live, and love what life is for. Be wedded night and day, and flight and rose. That's the nightingale and the rose. In Sufi poetry, as I always am quick to explain, when a nightingale sings to a rose, and you better know this because it happens everywhere in Sufi poetry, that's the soul singing to its vision of God.
Okay.
Awoken flamed ocean make you more. The down on ardent cheek of boy that grows will profit be of what the spirit knows. The time, the juice of grape with ruby ray have ripened, and his crown of glory glows. Now, what do I do with this? Well, I have a blogatelle in addition to my reply. I write at the top, hearkening and heartened to further praise of wine, I give you something from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe for amplification and approval. By the way, maybe I just stop before I read this poem and just explain about Islam and wine.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a question. You know that in many Islamic countries, it's forbidden to drink wine. And there are places in the Quran where it's stated to be forbidden to drink wine. But there are other places that sound as if wine might be all right if used in moderation. Now, which do you follow? The most common interpretation, at least in Sunni Islam, is take the stricter one and you'll be safer. But in the Shia Islam, they have a more relaxed attitude. And moreover, let's think about this for a minute. Eden is described in the Quran, the paradise of the righteous. There are 4 rivers in Eden, just as there are in Genesis, so also in the Quran. But what we learn in the Quran is something we never were taught in the Bible. The 4 rivers are of water, milk, honey, and wine. Now, when asked to comment on this, the commentators usually say, and I think this is actually written in the Quran, it's not earthly wine, it's a special heavenly wine, which makes perceptions keener and more enlivened and increases mental acuity with no side effects. But here's a little question I could pose. I like to be a bit mischievous sometimes. It helps me understand the history of the debate in religious circles. If, in fact, the heaven that the righteous get in paradise is a purified, improved version of earthly wine, what kind of metaphorical or imaginative appeal will that have to a person who never sampled any earthly wine? Think about that. So this helps me make a bigger point, and it's a very important one, and I think it's valuable. And the point is, the history of religions, certainly of the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is, among other things, a history of controversy. Debates started at the beginning, it continued, and it goes on today. And I'd like to add, as a final footnote to this, that in Persia, and these are all Persian language poems and very heavily saturated with Persian culture, in Persia, the soil is great for vineyards. It's not a desert country. Now let's have Goethe. What Goethe did was he wrote a book called West-East Divan, meaning West-East Anthology or collection. And in that, he pretends to be, he claims to be, and I think very successfully, a medieval Sufi Persian pub poet. So here he is. This is poem 197. Goethe never numbered them, but in my translation of the book, I number everything. Was the Quran from eternity? That I will not ask. Might the Quran created be? No answer, a thankless task. That it the book of books need be, my Muslim faith made clear to me. This is the standard. This is one of the questions that's been debated in the history of Islamic thought. Some people say the Quran existed from all eternity. That is, it existed from before the world was created. And other people say, no, it was created when the world was created. So you can argue this at some length. It's difficult to support any particular definitive conclusion. So Goethe says, when I have this kind of question about the Quran, I can't answer. It's a thankless task. That it, the book, Quran, the book of books need be, my Muslim faith made clear to me. That wine is from eternity? This I question not. That it might a pre-angel creation be, may also well be taught. The drinker, whatever the case may be, looks God in the face, the freer he. That's very much in the spirit of Persian pub poetry. And Goethe goes on in the same theme. Drunk is what all of us ought to be. Youth's being drunk without wine, you see. If age can drink itself back to youth, that's wonder virtue too, in truth. Dear life brings worry all the time. A worry breaker is the vine. Well, that takes care, I think, nicely of the wine teaching. Yes. Shall we go on now to our second poet?
Okay.
He's named Anvari. Omar Khayyam lived from 1048 to 1131, and Anvari lived from 1126 to 1189. And for him, I have the subject heading, Satire and Moral Teaching, or Satiric-Moral Teaching. And on, let's see, page 79, you'll find an excellent example. This is by Anvari, and it's called Counsel. Man of our time, if rational or fool, three things you'll need: an ampler life to rule. You cannot fail to free yourself from chains. Who heeds the three, great liberty attains. For even reason cannot see one through, unless he call the three to aid him too. No matter what confession you profess, these three will make your every sorrow less. Feel in the dark then? Hearken to the three: uprightness, judgment, flexibility. And here's my reply to Anvari. I begin with a four-line quote from Goethe, who really liked this. He says, claimed Anvari a clever man, outstanding, a knowledge of deep heart, high mind commanding. In every place and time beloved will be, uprightness, judgment, flexibility. So Goethe wrote. Admittedly, it's briefer, but Anvari, I note, had doubtless liefer, that is rather, repeat 5 times the hortatory call to wake the warder in the summons hall. In other words, he wrote 5 verses and Goethe wrote only 2. Oh. It's as if he's ringing the alarm clock 5 times. Okay. And then the last 2 lines, then come ye servant of the prudent rule, 3 wishes, rings, let freedom
Did he really say that?
That's my reply. I get to say it.
Okay.
That doesn't correspond to anything in the Persian language. I made that up, and it's English from start to finish, okay?
Yes.
All right, freedom. And then if you turn to page 80, and go down to the middle of the paragraph after the number 7.
Okay.
It says, I write 3 wishes, rings, like the 3 rings, a 3-ring circus. Let freedom be your school. There's an aura of folk wisdom about threeness. The 3 wishes, the prince or the princess will be granted. Every fairy story has that, are a sacralized version of the 3-ring circus. I remember psychologist Bruno Bettelheim suggesting in his book, The Uses of Enchantment, that the model of the legendary triads was likely the family, 2 parents and a child. That's the super magic 3.
How about that?
And that probably explains why Cinderella has 2 elder sisters. Every child has 2 elder, mysterious people who cause problems for it. As well as doing good things, but that is standard in fairy tales, that it's the youngest will be the hero, and the hero of either gender, and then the 2 older ones are not quite so promising and not going to win the final triumph. Even a complicated novel like Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov has 3 brothers. The youngest one is the religious one. He stands for spirit. The other 2 stand for intellect and passions. Well, there's good things to be said about intellect and passion, but you can tell that Dostoevsky's bias is going to be for the guy who is the spirit. Okay,
today we people at Shakespeare Club read Macbeth, the 3 witches.
Oh yeah, the 3 witches.
And they had the 3 and 3 and 3. So they had altogether they made it 9. Each of them did 3 circles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're getting into fairy tale territory when you have 3 magic supernaturals. Absolutely. So that's Anvari. Now shall we proceed to third poet, Nizami. We're moving ahead in time. We're all the way up to, his dates are 1141 to 1209. Most of these people are medieval people. I have called it my book Persian Poetic Renaissance because I think it is a rebirth. I'm using it in the rebirth sense of the word. And Nizami, I call the master of the parable. In fact, maybe if any of you have listened to my earlier presentation based on this book, which was 3 parables of Jesus, you may remember Nizami's parable of Jesus and the dead dog. That's a beautiful thing. So that introduced you to Nizami, the parable writer. This time he's going to write the tale of Solomon and the sower. So turn to page 100.
Okay.
This was fun to translate. It happened on a tranquil day when Solomon in splendor gleamed. He took his baggage to a field and set up in the sun his throne. Before his startled eyes appeared a sower on the wasteland plain. Some wheat he tossed with ample fist. He scooped it from a holding bag. In all directions wheat he threw, of every kind a sample seed. And while he scattered seeds abroad, quoth Solomon, well learned in tongues, O aged man, be young again. The better to perform your work, stretch nets. Don't throw the single seeds. And listen, I the bird's speech know. What good will sowing do you hear? There's little water, barren soil. The birds told me all about this. Even I, who've tilled more fertile ground, what kind of fruitage have I found? You'd best believe on arid field you sow in vain. If it's dry, you're done for. 'Twill little yield. And here's the answer that he got. Here's how the farmer answered the king. Not ground or dew will make me hot. No matter, damp or dry the sod. I give the seed, the blessing, God. My water is my sweat of brow, my ground, the work to which I bow. I need no regal banner high. The seeds are life for such as I. The gladsome hour will come at last. 700 gained for each one cast. No arts of devils will you need to get 700 back for one. Begin with that, proceed from there. How rich the harvest earth can give. And every glance you cast thereon will body to the soul unite. Not every donkey Savior bears, not every head a crown adorns. The elephant devours a clump, the ant ekes out a grain of salt. In sea 100 currents rest, and every drop a sound will make. While azure heaven circles round, will every man remain distinct. A ruler must on luck depend, that fate not crush, but help befriend. Big falcon belly have not all, not every man will mystery call. So of the latest, Nizami alone can burdens bear, you see? In other words, I really don't need any of your high tech. What I need is hard work and lots of it, and the spirit not to give up.
Right. Take that, Solomon.
Here's my reply to Nizami's poem. Who wait upon the quiet voice will have occasion to rejoice. What's fruitful? What a bootless field? By varied labor you are healed. My heart had sent me far abroad, to Persia for the myrrh of God, in rhyme and meter mysteries that will the breath of spirit please, that I might learn of Nizami how fields may cultivated be. I sought him for poetic pir, that's master, teacher, guru.
Okay.
Sweet master who would much endear, I hoped in rendering his word that souls might feel by him bestirred. I tried replying to the lines, uniting minds in high designs. I wished acquiring lyric forms to bring alive desire that warms. I prayed in following his lead, my friends might brother guidance heed. I asked in emulating art so loved that I might grace impart. That's basically a big commercial, isn't it? I've been telling you that I worked just as hard as he did, only my field happens to be poetry.
Yes.
And I couldn't resist for a better context to add a blogatelle, which is based on a Quran passage right on the next page. A Quran-based poem I offered in A Unifying Light and reprint here may help to interpret this glorification of sowing as productive labor, giving life where none had been before. And this is my lyrical response to a verse in Surah 7 from the Quran called The Heights. A surah is a canto or chapter.
Right.
57, and he it is who sendeth the winds as tidings heralding his mercy, till when they bear a cloud heavy with rain, we lead it to a dead land, and then cause water to descend thereon, and thereby bring forth fruits of every kind. Thus bring we forth the dead. Isn't that nice? You know, the Quran startles me with the beauty of it, the poetry you find there sometimes. And this is my improvisation on that theme. And he it is who sendeth winds their tidings heralding, his mercy till they bear a heavy cloud replete with rain. We lead it to a dead land, causing water to descend, so nourishing and fostering the fruits of every kind. Thus bring we forth the dead. The cloud is like a river that its water glad would fling in foam above, across the rocks, the ocean main will so be frenzied, tide-born triumph bearing, to befriend the shore with gem of shell and statue driftwood lads will find by hope of treasure led. The poet, pondering the things to come for theme to sing, is going to consider youth a dream for man refrain, recurrently to sound as a remembrance. He, the end of being, so can link with his beginning, letting mind to sea and cloud be wed.
Nice.
Well, now poet number 4 will be Attar. He lived from 1146 to 1221. And his main theme, as I discern it to be, is mystical allegory. Page 113. By mystical, I'm talking about a very inward, introspective kind of religion. And by allegory, I'm talking about a symbolic story.
Okay.
This is called Hoopoe's Introduction to Colloquies of the Birds. I've got to explain what Attar did. He is really something unique in literature. He wrote something called Conference of the Birds. And what happens is that 30 birds get together and they decide to take a trip, something in the nature of a religious pilgrimage, to interview the greatest and wisest bird that ever lived and who lives still and always will, and that is the simurg. So they go to find the simurg. And the whole narrative consists in letting the birds say why they're going on the trip, what they expect to find there, how their advantages as pilgrim seekers might conceivably outweigh those of their neighbors. And it's quite entertaining. You listen to birds for a couple of 100 pages, and of course they are symbolic of human souls who are
the Canterbury Tales.
Well, that's perfect. That's the best way to describe it, except we're a little earlier than that in time. So, like the Canterbury Tales, we're going to hear from the birds. And this is right at the beginning. The Hoopoe it's a small bird with a long beak. We don't seem to have them in New York State. The Hoopoe, with a troubled heart, at Parliament of Birds arrived, his breast with feather sash adorned, and round his head a feather crown. How fine that head, experience rich, it knew of good and evil both. He spoke, "You birds, you needn't doubt, I'm herald of creation's Lord. The outer world's well known to us, I ken the mysteries within. Whose beak the holy name contains, will many secrets penetrate. In sorrow, though my days be spent, there's none lamenting over me. If I the crown should now assume, the rider knights you needn't fear. I'm skilled at finding water too. I'm apt at learning hidden things. When Solomon conversed with me, I showed his kingly troops the way. He'd never ask if someone left his service at the royal court, but me, when absent for a while, how many men were sent to seek. He couldn't stay without me long, and thus my value high confessed. I bore him letters, then returned. We two conferred within his tent. Whoever's for a prophet known will wear a crown about his head. But though I'm prophet widely called, how shall the birds acknowledge me?" Here's my reply. Maybe we'll explain a little of that.
Okay.
The Hoopoe, new to politics, to speeches in the Parliament, was long a royal confidant, as he correctly has declared. 'Twas he that Solomon informed of Sheba, Queen of Sheba, and the letters bore the regal people then exchanged, whose drift may hint the Song of Songs. The wisdom of the Hoopoe might be called supernal. Sheba's queen, when entering his kingly hall, the floor so brightly shining saw, she slightly lifted up her skirt to keep it dry from what appeared a pool, a lake between the walls. A modest motion and restrained. When Solomon her foot and leg could see, he knew beyond a doubt that she a mortal woman was, though angel fair indeed appeared her unexampled beauteous form, as bright as are the fiery jinns. The Hoopoe knew how worthy she would prove to be the loyal friend of one who wrote the perfect hymn to passion, which when I perused, I with the aid of Muse Huri, an homage wrote to Solomon. I'll offer you that ballad now. He's blessed that Hoopoe helper finds. Okay, there's plenty of folklore in Islam about the Hoopoe's help to get King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba together.
Okay.
I wrote this just for fun of it. It quite took me by surprise that I would write a thing like this. But I wanted to get in on the Solomon story, and so here's my story, and I call it Ballad of King Solomon and the Tiger. I guarantee there's nothing about King Solomon and tigers in the Bible.
Yeah,
It all came right out of my head.
Okay.
I've long admired King Solomon and want to do as he had done. To have a royal tiger ride would be for me the finest fun. The tiger through the countryside, the king had ridden far and wide, while breezes blew and mandolined, more swift than lightning they would glide. Before the king had ever sinned, and while his mind was well beginned, the Lord had taught the man to tame the tiger roaring in the wind. We cannot think the king to blame, who heard of Sheba's great acclaim and rode his tiger triple speed to see the queen of global fame. She silent prophecy could heed, and his unprecedented deed foresaw, and in her heart foreknew by inner ear, not scribal screed. Make haste, beloved, come, for you I've waited while the morning dew spread mercy over mead and field. Come, take me, praise it, angel, do. And are you startled she would yield to him who'd godly wisdom wield to charm a tiger? He'd unite with her whose heart his will had steeled. On spicy hills in fragrant night, he'd graze until the daybreak light shone forth upon the Bible land. How blessed if I could see that sight. The tiger did, and he'd recall what passed in that resplendent hall. He knows the tale which I have spun. I am the tiger after all.
Very cute.
Okay, so that's me on the subject of Solomon.
Mhm.
And here is Goethe, that West-East Divan again. He covers a lot of territory there. And from Goethe's West-East Divan, here's what the intercultural traveler, Goethe, had to say about the Hoopoe. Interestingly, he wrote it in a free verse, which is he doesn't do that very often.
Mm.
What an ecstatic feeling, strolling in the country where Hudhud comes across my path. When I looked in the rock for mussels, petrified of the ancient seas, Hudhud ran in front, his crest unfolding, preening in a teasing way and jesting over death, he the living. Hudhud, I said, indeed, a beautiful bird are you. So hurry, Hoopoe, hasten to tell my darling that I am hers forever. Truly, you played for Solomon and Sheba's queen, the pander long ago. You see where I got the idea, still influencing me when I wrote Ballad of King Solomon and the Tiger, that the Hebrew king carried on a romance, some say even a marriage, with the beauteous Ethiopian queen. Such ideas have often been floated, even promoted, but in fact the Song of Solomon never names the king's beloved, who is simply called the Shulamite, or person from Shulam. The Queen of Sheba visited Solomon. Her royal visit is depicted in 1 Kings 10, 1-2. Muhammad is known to have read this book of Kings, though he never read the Song of Solomon. My reference to her angel-like beauty, so ethereal that Solomon had to see her foot and her leg mirrored on the floor of a palatial room before he could believe that she was human and not a spirit, summarizes the tradition built upon Quranic verse 24:44. All right, there we have our introductory presentation to Attar. And now we will go to our 5th poet, Rumi. Rumi is a triumph. That is to say, he is generally acknowledged as one of the very greatest mystic poets that ever lived. He wrote a huge amount. I visited his tomb in the city of Konya. He lived decades in Turkey, although he wrote in Persian. And there in his mausoleum are all kinds of writings of Rumi, but in Persian, so that the Turks who come to visit can't read them. But what they can understand and love is the constant playing of a tape of the flute, which is the dervish music. Rumi is held to be the founder of the whirling dervishes.
Okay.
Rumi lived from 1207 to 1273. He's beginning to overlap with Dante. I'm not sure about that, toward the latter part of his life. And his theme is quelling the ego to reach God. And I've divided this up into 2 parts, quelling the ego and then reaching God.
Okay.
So here we have page 147. Now, this first poem may be a little mysterious to you, but it's the way mystic writing often sounds. He's basically telling you, if you quell the ego, you've got to forget the whole idea of I and me. Okay. Forget the idea of you also and we. Forget all ideas. Just forget yourself altogether and surrender. It's a total surrender. Okay. Dear brother, first of all, I ask, renounce both I and we, then come. I say, renounce both we and I. You'll not be you, and neither we. No more repeat that God is great. That's interesting. God is great is a watchword of Islam, but he wants you to go beyond all the scriptural religions. No more repeat that God is great. Hold fast the greatness we contain. When you have to feel the greatness within you. When fate proclaimed, you answered, yes. That thankful yes? Bad luck right now. The mystery of yes am I, in poverty who live and move. Then leave the place, or leave it not. Where's place? Where's the eternal? Where? Be pure of sense, becoming dust. Let from the dust awake the grass. Then if your hay be burnt in flame, that from your glow may gleam appear. And if you're then mere burnt up dust, your ash may be the wisdom stone. Behold the hidden alchemy that I from simple stone drew forth. Remember, the philosopher's stone is supposed to be good for changing other metals into gold. He's trying to change the person and himself into spiritual gold. With ocean, it adorns the land, the stone. With smoke, it decorates the air. With bit of bread, the soul it feeds. With single breath, the flesh revives. Your spirit lend to such like grass. High-spirited is then the poor. The soul is with his might replete. Abduct for that your soul as well. Enough of words, I'll quiet be, for silence holds more worth than word. Here's my reply. A yes to fate can hold you back. We write our future fate ourselves with energy awakened by the alchemy that Rumi learned. And even God is great can be a weakener until you feel the God that's great within you as a motive power, spirit will. Thus motto and agreement left behind or put aside, we're set for pilgrimage, but travel too is more a motion, more than motion to a place. For space and time and movement speed depend on what we make and do. Muhammad's journey through the sky, traversing every heaven round, was done before a water drop evaporated from a glass. And as for place, I every night in medieval Persia spend for colloquy with chanters who their sons by waking dream unveil. From soul to dust, to grass, to hay, to flame, to gleam, to humble ash, in stages were converted to the stone of the philosopher, which lo, a noble touching dubs. The stone of the philosopher touches what's low and it dubs it Sir so-and-so, it dubs it a noble. The alchemy that turns our bread to blood, our breath to flesh, our mind to might who's great, to fate who's kind. In other words, we're philosopher's stones, where each of us a transformative miracle, a metamorphic marvel.
Renunciation, is it?
Yeah, renunciation lets you feel the metamorphic power in you.
And the spinning, was that to disorient or what?
To what?
The whirling?
Yeah. What
Was
about?
that to disorient, to help you?
I think it had that effect.
Okay.
I think actually it turns you. You want me to say something very plain about whirling?
Yeah.
Little kids love to do it.
Yeah.
My daughter and her friend one afternoon, they spent a lot of their time whirling and falling on the ground and laughing their heads off.
I
And
know.
then when they got done with that, they do it again.
Yeah.
And I saw a little boy in an airport too, all by himself with no company at all. And he would whirl, fall on the ground and get up and whirl. He spent more than half an hour doing that. There's something about this whirling that you can say disorients or reorients or preorients. It does something to the nervous system. I will say this, though, just to make the record clear and not to distort anything. When I read about whirling dervishes, and when many of us do, we think of something very speedy. But if you go to see a performance, as I did, of Turkish whirling dervishes here in our Anderson Center at Binghamton University, they're slow and solemn, and the dance is accompanied with gestures, each of which has a mystical meaning. And it is a very moderately measured and symmetrical and sculptural performance, and nothing rapid about it.
Okay.
So there's something about whirling and maybe, or turning around, and maybe the speed isn't the crucial part. Well, here's if you turn the page to 150, here is something that I translated not from Rumi, but from another book by Rückert, my other favorite German source for Persian verse. It's very short, and it's one of the most famous poems Rumi ever wrote. Okay, it begins with "See" halfway down the page. See, as rock I died, and then as plant rose. Look, died as a plant, as animal my course I took. Died as a beast, became a human. Why then fear, if through dying I become no less? And here, when as a human I have perished yet again, I'll be an angel pinion. Sorry, I will an angel pinion, nothing less, attain. Pinion is a wing. As an angel, I'll be offered up to death, only to become, can't grasp it, God's own breath. Okay, you know, I can't go any further than that. I do have a comment, but I don't think I add anything. I ruminate on it for a few lines, but and I make myself feel good about that process, but it doesn't really match up to what Rumi just wrote. Let's turn the page now and get just one more Rumi poem. 152. A man of God is drunk without the wine. A man of God's well fed without the roast. A man of God is all amazed and mad. A man of God will need no sleep or food. A man of God is only wind and dust. A man of God is only flood and glow. A man of God is prince enwrapped in cowl. A man of God is treasure in the wilds. A man of God's obedience, temple meek. A man of God is burgess of good deeds. A man of God's in tutelage to God. A man of God is not in scripture schooled. A man of God's a never-ending sea. A man of God is rain without a cloud. A man of God is hidden well. My son, be freely giving. Find the man of God.
Wow. I like the part a man of God is not in scripture schooled.
That's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Charisma, first-hand revelation, right? The message that comes direct. Well, when I asked myself, how am I going to reply to that? And the answer is, I cannot give this kind of comprehensive portrayal of a man of God. I don't fit this description. What am I then? I'll say this: I'm at least a man of song.
Yeah.
I do devote my life to word song and write a poem every day of it. And so I'll write about that. And so here's my poem. A man of song entreats that he may thank. A man of song is grateful that he breathes. A man of song is tidal in his breath. A man of song is metered in his speech. A man of song is only heart and air. A man of song is only rock and star. A man of song repents when he forgets. A man of song begets that he may give. A man of song is gyroscope and fire. A man of song is mirror and the spring. A man of song is moved symmetric hymn. A man of God is heaven calling psalm. A man of God is tree embracing wind. A man of song is bird, prophetic breast. A man of song is trembling nerve astir. You in the blood beat hear the man of song. You can probably hear it just listening to your heartbeat, right? And 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. The more I go, the further I go into that poem, the more I realize that in the description, I'm turning the thing described into a sort of poem. I seem to be describing a poem as much as a person.
Yes.
Well, now let's see. Rumi. Oh, let's have a sample from a very interesting category that Joseph von Hammer calls Dervish Breviary. A breviary is a schedule of services for the day that a priest carries around. And what this collection is, it's a group of songs written either by Rumi or by his disciples. They're anonymous and they don't have an authorial attribution. So I'm taking a sample of that, of which the theme is loving a person parallels loving God. And page 182 is the place to find it.
Okay.
This is number 3, interview, Dervish Breviary interview number 3.
Okay. I'll get there. You can.
Okay. It's basically the thoughts that happen to the Rumi disciple while he is listening to the flute. Listen, and I'll tell you of the flute's lament, what of mysteries it from the Godhead lent. Lacking tongue and yellow-cheeked, with wind breath filled, avidly tidings of the Lord instilled. Doubt will not allow me, God, in peace to lie. Am I you? Declare the truth, or are you I? I'm not you, and you're not you, and you're not I. Yet I'm I, and you are you, and you are I. That's the first response to the flute, and here's the second one. Listen to the lamentation, tells the flute of separation. Blood drops on the lover's way, from Ferhad's, Mijnun's, 'twill say. These are lovers who met an unhappy fate in their love. So in putting the two songs together, you get the sense that there's an analogy between loving God and loving a human being. And that both may be, both kinds of love may be in various degrees hindered or helped. And here's my reply, in which I will try to put things in order. To the strange bewailings that a flute intoned, sighing of the pious, it dismayed bemoaned. Then the drops of blood by reddened eyes bewept, of the lovers pained in separation kept. Sundering of soul from God, of man from maid, sever part from whole, and heart may feel betrayed. Rumi heard the flute reed, longing for the marsh, parted from its home in God by law too harsh. So from you, my love, the moment I forget what I owe the blessed depth, apart I'm set, part of me as of my God's not manifest. When my soul I barely know, I fail the test. See, it's difficult to know God because basically God is not knowable. And if you love God, you are attempting to love what cannot be known. And the good part about this, can you believe that there is a good part? The good part is that we are also unknown. Socrates said, know yourself, but the Sufis tell us that that's not a possibility even. You don't have a knowable essence, and neither has God. And that helps explain why it says we're created in the image of God. That is to say, there's no likeness for God. He's unique and not knowable. And there's no likeness for an individual person who's unique and not knowable. Well, I think we'll try one more poet now before we take our break, shall we?
Sure.
Let's try. My 7th poet is Saadi, and I call him Voice of Love and Loss. He's very good. The thing about Saadi is he's a real human being, and I really feel I'm listening to somebody talk to me. And I call him the Voice of Love and Loss because I happen to think that two of his best poems are, respectively, one about love and then one about loss. So let's do the love poem first. This is on page 210 of Saadi, section 4.
It's different in the electronic version, so I'll wait for the first line.
Okay, the first line is, splendid is pleasure.
Oh, that's lovely.
Okay, found
Yep.
it?
Well,
Splendid is pleasure, and yet on a riverbank better. Wine's a delight, but with chanting of Nightingale better. Sweet is the moan of the sleeper in garden of jasmine. Playing the flute near the comrade so fragrant is better. Sleep in the morning is lovely mid mists of the drinking. Sleeping on pillows of rosy-cheeked faces far better. Testament friendly you're given by beds of the roses. True, but the roseate face tint will testify better. Tenderly fawns in the flood to the wind are unfolded. Straying, disheveled, and wavy, your tresses are better. Preach of the paradise rill and the pillows of Eden. Talk all you like, but my corner right here will be better. Saadi, the worth of your friend to learn well you will suffer. Coming when pained to your deepest desire would be better. Isn't that an interesting way to write? It's called the ghazal or ghazal. It's thought to be graceful. It's related apparently to the word gazelle, and it's a Persian specialty, ending on a repeated word. Watch how I do it. This is my reply to Saadi on the bottom of the page. Helpful, reciting a litany, good and then better. Contrast made greater, we hear the distinction made clearer. Often when dreaming at night, I'm a lyrical writer. Then comes the dawning, the beat and the meaning are clearer. Holding the book in your hand while reciting is helpful. Rhythm, when marked by the hand that is free, will be clearer. Look at the listener, read to the soul serenaded. Love played on heartstrings of each will be sweeter and clearer. Accent, mellifluent phrasing, and tenderly gesture, greater involvement of sense means the melody's clearer. Higher and lower, your tone will the movement enliven. Curving of air forms you draw will make all of it clearer. Cicero ending a speech, a hexameter hinted, meanings both plain and subliminal, stirringly clearer. Did you notice I was conducting the whole thing? That's to make my meaning clearer. I do that often when to myself when I'm writing rhythmically. I do the rhythm and let the body join the soul in rhythm. And I have a friend who specialized in Latin literature, Peter Bridge. He died recently. He was a classicist, later librarian of Congress. And he told me that Cicero, the greatest orator of ancient Rome, had a habit of making his speeches end in a most moving way by sneaking in poetic meter into the last paragraph so that he was actually writing verse. It's not indicated anywhere, and Roman verse doesn't rhyme, so it isn't obvious. But that's just a wonderful idea. So we can all write in this Persian way if we want to. Goethe wrote it. Turn the page to 212, where it says blogatelle for Saadi interview for.
got it.
And down at the bottom, Goethe writes in this meter, and you'll have to see how well you like it. His is very modest and short lines. Quite untamed as I was then, I a master quickly found. Many years had vanished when I as well a mistress found. As a trial wasn't spared, they in me one loyal found. And for me they kindly cared as a treasure they had found. None two masters ever fed, with who a finer fortune found. Gladness they have merited, they rejoiced when I'd been found. Lucky star my life has led, since I both of them had found.
Ah,
That's fun.
it is fun. So he just adopted that approach for this little poem.
That's right. Let's see now. Which word is that? Oh, yes. Then the page 221, about a half a dozen pages on. And now I talked about love, and now I want to talk about loss. This is one of the very most effective poems about loss that I think I've ever read. Very strange and very interesting, and I think very wise. It's numbered 7, Saadi in Sana'a. In Sana'a it was, I lost a son. In Sana'a it was, I lost a son. My head, it whirled around, my senses spun. Like Yusuf, that's Joseph, may a boy be fresh and young, yet to his death be sent, to worms be flung. Within this grove no cedar now will stand. for all were strangled by a stormy hand. No wonder that a rose to dust would fade, that over ruddy cheek drew graveyard shade. I said, Lord, die of shame. Yes, you should die. Pure boy, like sinful elder, there he'll lie. I went despairing to my tomb alone, and from the grave I tore away the stone. I wandered in that narrow place of fear, with eyes inflamed in raging madness drear. When I awaked in part from misery, I thought I heard my darling speak to me. If dark your heart so deeply terrifies, look wisely. To the daylight lift your eyes. If you would turn the night of graves to day, perform good work, for that's the only way. The crowd may think a golden crop will rise where no one sowed and nothing planted lies, but Saadi knows that seed and fruit belong to one who sowed and planted and was strong. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, he cursed God. Did you notice that? Twice over that, he told God to die.
Yes.
He thought God deserved it more than his son did. And then the son comes and speaks to him some good sense about doing good deeds.
Yeah.
And what I wrote was, a wrathful grief like this I've rarely known, nor was a deeper spirit ever shown in any poetry that I have read. Be blessed, by such a strength may I be led. And if you turn the page, I have an interesting reminiscence. Of all the poets in this book, Saadi is the one I was introduced to first. Okay. And I was 19 years old. And it says, blogatelle to Saadi, interview 7.
Got it.
Saadi is for me the poet of balance. Raging grief can be modified by sane commitment to an active, not reactive, human life. The equilibrium between passion and reason, impulsivity and calm, risk-taking and prudent planning, we have found to be thoroughly and wisely maintained. I was introduced to Saadi right before my 20th birthday when majoring in Russian at Indiana University. I was taking a course to study Eugene Onegin, Alexander Pushkin's novel in verse, a narrative offered in sonnets, which we spent a semester learning to translate. 58 years later, I published my own translation of this epoch-making work, and from it I now can quote for you Pushkin's mention of Saadi, which in my rendering appears on the last page of the novel, together with my reply. So if you've read a little bit of Eugene Onegin, I'm going to speed you forward to the last page of the book.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you for forgiving me.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Of friends who early let me say aloud my strophes, some are dead, and others now are far away, as poet Saadi somewhere said. Without them my Onegin's drawn, and she, the basis whereupon Tatiana, dear ideal, was made. How many cruel fate waylaid. Be blessed who early left the feast of life, the goblet filled with wine, not drinking all, while they, in fine, its novel from the gaze released, not fain to read the volume through, as I, Eugene, am leaving you. I hope everybody here, I think it's important for them to know who is the charming lady to whom I've been speaking in all 4 of these presentations. Her name is Cheryl Richter, and she's the moderator for all 4 of them. And I want to thank you for your participation and for your resistance.
Thank you. I appreciate this poetry.
Thank you very much. So let's try now 227. This is number 2 of Ibn Yamin. Ibn Yamin is, I call him the master of prudent, if disillusioned, counsel. He sometimes seems a bit bitter. His tone is somewhat wry, a little ironic or sarcastic, but generally speaking, prudent and well considered. So let's try on this page 227, what I call 3 on prudence. A free man whom amid crowds we view. Experienced, well-mannered too, will by the world first honored be, when from the need for cash made free. Dependent men are honored not, though schooled in Avicenna's thought. Part 2. The folk who try to serve the Lord, 3 paths to gain their goal may choose. Some serve him in a worldly way, with calculations mercantile, while others worship him in fear and tensely hope to feel more free. A third group both these aims reject and formulate a different way. They set themselves a middle point, and round that self-made axle turn. The road that these have chosen we may call the introspective life. Last part. Having a belly well filled, who should care whether wheat seed or barley filled it, so long as the food made the consumer content? Body once clothed to a sensible person, it never will matter whether the garments appear weathered or perfectly new. Ibn Yamin, never stray in your mind from the path of surrender. So you abasement evade, no degradation will know. I like that.
Yes, yes.
So here's my reply.
Okay.
Omar Khayyam and Ibn Yamin are 2 short poem writers, each with different view. The former skeptical and pleasure-driven, the latter more to circumspection given. Circumspection is Latin for looking around. Can Avicenna, that's one of the very great mystical philosophers of Islam, wrapped in mystic dreams, become a man of independent means? To serve the Lord in calculating ways, in fear of wrath or hope of gain conveys contempt. The middle way will serve him better. I'm reckoning its freedom will unfetter the independence of tranquility. And if we dress and eat contentedly, we'll yet maintain an elevated station. No lowering means no humiliation. To lend your life a safe and pure direction, inframe your days in prudent circumspection. Blogatelle for Ibn Yamin. That's the next page.
Okay.
Dependent men are honored not, though schooled in Avicenna's thought. A fine smile. I said smile, isn't it? I had to smile because I'd hear things like this when I was a boy. A fine example of the proverbial concision I praised above. It reminded me of the Great Depression jokes I heard as a boy, my father having graduated with a doctorate in philosophy from Yale, but unable to get a teaching job as these became more frantically sought after. Standard was the quip, 25 cents and a PhD will get you a cup of coffee. I hope you weren't brought up on tales of horror like that, but it's certainly when I read, dependent men are honored not, though schooled in Avicenna's thought.
Yes.
That has echoes, that has meaning. Moderation seems the keynote of Ibn Yamin's thought. It's Epicureanism as taught by Epicurus, not as caricatured by satirists who haven't read him. Epicureanism is the high valuing of moderate pleasure. And it's a good description of Shakespeare's philosophical inclination as analyzed by Jonathan Bate in his book, How the Classics Made Shakespeare.
Okay.
All right. We'll try another poet now. Oh, next we move on to Hafiz. I translated a whole book of conversations with him, 103 of them, and I called it Poems of Wine and Tavern Romance. And so my heading for Hafiz tonight has got to be the same, Wine and Tavern Romance, and I offer a love song as sample of his mentality on 255. With magic of your eyes, my tender play, with nodding downy head, my horoscope, with ruby of your mouth, life's rivulet, with molten fragrant air, my vernal breath, with dust whereon you trod, my tent of hope, with dust upon your feet, to dew preferred, with quick and sprightly gait, a partridge walk, with soft alluring eye, gazelle desire, with fresh aroma wind like morning breeze, with wafting of your locks the east wind breath, with ruby valued more than wishing ring, with gem that lent your words embellishment, with ruddy cheek that taught the rose to grow, to glow. I swear that you have done me so much good, not further in Hafiz of strength remains. Here's my reply. Combining the sublime of energy with equal force conveyed in multitude by listing of the gifts through love bestowed, we growing force may feel when reading pace and motion of the thought and image row haste daringly and strength accumulate. So Kant, dynamical, sublime may laud, but equally the mathematical. Eyes, head, mouth, air, dust, feet, I walk, wind locks, gem, ruby, cheek, and then, for metaphor, play, spring, stars, rivulet, tent, partridge, dew, gazelle, ring, east wind breath, and breeze and rose have made the mind replete with girl and world.
The partridge seemed a little.
Yeah, the partridge puzzled me too, but you know,
Yeah.
we don't see partridges, and apparently some people regard them as very elegant birds.
Oh, I was thinking in terms of pigeons, I guess.
No, a partridge is a sizable bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's my interview on the next page, response to poet translator Joseph von Hammer, inventor of meters, translator of Hafiz. Your name I wish to praise, chant hallelujah, and hands in thanks to raise for what you do. A treasury you've gained in prosody. The meters thus attained can solace me. Proliferating moods of rhythm bliss ensure that naught eludes a drinker's kiss. Friend Hafiz, Goethe claimed as near akin. West-east, the two are famed, each dear a twin. In tavern they attend, enchanting us. The insight invites one to befriend with little fuss. Narcissus, tulip, rose, and nightingale become whom none of those will ever fail. I'm celebrating the fact that it was the translation of Hafiz's collected poems that convinced Goethe that it was time for him to imitate that and write his West-East Divan, from which I quoted any number of times. And not only did Goethe like the Hafiz, this medieval Persian pub poet that he got by way of Joseph von Hammer, he called him his twin brother. That's remarkable that a guy brought up in German,
Yes,
Christian Germany would say that this Sufi Muslim poet is his twin brother. But he did say that. In fact, to Goethe's West-East Divan, this is interesting, for not, I think, the first, but a later edition, Goethe wrote a little note that said, rumors have been circulating that the author of this book is himself a Muslim. He does not wish to deny
it. That's cute. Well, probably a better word than cute exists, but.
So let's try page 299 now for another poet. This is Kamal Khujandi. He's not so terribly well known, but I like him. And I call him a Shakespeare-like love poet. Now, you may have I think he's writing to his boyfriend here, and very often it's hard to tell in Persian Sufi poems whether it's a man or a woman who is addressed. For one thing, when Hafiz, for example, it describes his boyfriend has a narrow waist, long, fragrant hair, red lips. What can you say? There's no way when you're reading the poem really to tell.
Right.
So, have you got it? 299?
I need the words.
Okay.
Then I can get it.
It begins, the roguish eye of you. The roguish eye of you, my lover heart holds captive. As nightingales are trapped, imprisoned in a cage. As long as you so graceful waver, moans the heart. As signal bell I hear, departing caravan, you turn your face to me with tresses fine a-gleaming. No great surprise when flame lights to the kindling turn. So radiant your face had burnt me through like spices. The white hot glow of love transfused the world entire. Your lips will never fail in more than sugar sweetness. The flies are falling in the glass of lip-wet wine. At morning tide I longed for you, yet then 'twas better. What shall I do if heart smoke smother all the soul? Come on, your soul unto the most beloved offer. If not to singer lent, 'twill be the steward's prey. In other words, if you don't answer me who am singing your praises, you're probably going to be the next target of the innkeeper himself. Steward.
Yes.
See, there's competition in this world of male love in tavern life.
Okay.
So now I reply. Repeatedly, I find the gladsome number 7, a total of the double lines of our Kamal, remindful of the graceful shape a Shakespeare sonnet can take, his range of daily passion 'twill recall, as well, and the refinement of archaic phrasing, and even comedy commingled with the grief of doubt occasioned by neglect and inattention, inflicted by beloveds with narcissal eye. A 14-liner, sometimes quite precisely doubled in length, as if to say, our will, Shakespeare, do not forget, combines intensity with laudable concision and metaphoric wit and paradox and whim. Kamal and Shakespeare view with passion troubled lovers, and here again tradition, east and west, may link. I do think there's a lot in common between followers of Hafiz, such as Kamal and Shakespeare, because his sonnets, Shakespeare sonnets, are bisexual sonnets, and
Yes.
far more of them are devoted to his boyfriend than to any girlfriend there. Despite all the talk about the Dark Lady, she doesn't get near as much space as the boyfriend does.
Oh, I thought the Dark Lady was a guy, actually.
You
Right.
thought she was what?
A guy.
Oh, the Dark Lady? No, the Dark Lady is a lady.
Okay.
Shakespeare is bisexual and has some of the poems are very beautiful, addressed to a woman, but more are very beautiful, addressed to a man. Like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
Yeah.
It's a man that he's comparing to a summer's day.
Okay.
Here, in this Kamal poem, I am struck by the intensity of the following lines. You turn your face to me with tresses fine a-gleaming. No great surprise when flame lights to the kindling turn. So radiant, your face had burnt me through like spices. The white-hot glow of love transfused the world entire. So the beloved is the summer of beauty and the burning of spices. Let's hear some related thoughts from our longtime friend, Will Shakespeare, Sonnet 104. To me, fair friend, you never can be old, for as you were when first your eye eyed, he actually said that. Such seems your beauty still. 3 winters cold have from the forests shook 3 summers' pride. 3 beauteous springs to yellow autumn turned. In process of the seasons have I seen 3 April perfumes in 3 hot Junes burned. There's the burning spices. Since first I saw you fresh, which yet are green. As yet doth beauty like a dial hand steal from his figure and no pace perceived. So your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion, and mine eye may be deceived. For fear of which, hear this, thou age unbred, ere you were born was beauty's summer dead. In other words, you seem like as if you, he says to the friend, have a beauty that would never die. But you know, when you're looking at the sundial, which traces the course of the sun toward sunset, you can look for an hour and nothing seems to have changed, and yet the sun, so to speak, is getting older. And so, what shall we say? Maybe you're getting older too. Who knows? I've heard it happens to everyone. Now, if that is the case, the present people should realize that while you were beautiful, you were the most beautiful, and nothing comparable has arisen since.
Okay. I
Okay,
have never heard that one before.
And you don't remember that, huh? Well, he did 154 of them. It's hard to keep them all in your head.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've even heard it, actually.
Number
Read
11.
it.
Number 11 is a Hafizian love poet named Jami. He lived from 1414 to 1492. Boy, we're all the way up to Columbus. We have progressed through the centuries rather well. Actually, Hafiz from 1315 to 1390 is almost precisely contemporary with Chaucer. Remember, he's the guy with the short lines talking about all the pleasures and listing them dutifully one after the other. And he's the man of pleasure. And there's not a lot of piety about Hafiz, in my humble opinion. And I don't find it in Chaucer either. Okay, so let's try Jami. This would be page 303. A Hafizian means he's going to be in the tavern.
Okay.
Poems of wine and tavern romance. That's the trademark of Hafiz. They're burning every night, the torches of the heart flame. They come from where the sorrow caravan has traveled. A lampion my heart is made from sun ray gleaming. Upon the fetters of your tresses 'twill be hanging. The mysteries of wine, not everyone will grasp them, until the aged taverner the queries answer, that is, with more wine. Walk not upon the way of poverty and squalor, where destiny and rearguard slyly squatting hunches. The blab of intellect will recognize no borders. Then grant me wine, I'll wipe it out, the idle chatter. The tavern mysteries are known by drinkers only, who, like Johnny, will not begrudge an extra penny.
There you go.
He states his creed.
Yes.
And here's my reply. The penury of spirits so to be avoided, you needn't fear by merely emptying your pocket. The brain-benumbing gabble, dust of daily worry, will spread a cataract to cover up the daybreak. The caravan of sadness bearing hidden dawnlight, the lamp that by the myrrh is fed of tresses fragrant, might these in time reveal the answer to the question? They shadow it, but wine will brighten up the features. How much I'd love to know the tavern-keeping elder, who pouring wine may help with hint of lunar secret. Begin with quiet plan to shun the gloating hoarder. Be ready to expend with waiting hand extended. In other words, it may take a few more glasses of wine till you find the answers. Here's my blogatelle on the next page.
Okay.
I call it Jami and Hafiz. The tavern keeper guards the mysteries. I put that in quotes. It refers to religious mysteries, like as we find in religions like Christianity. I like it. I shouldn't be surprised if Hafiz made an entry. He'll gladly travel with a caravan and often must keep on moving to avoid the breath of scandal. For him are church and mosque and inn abodes co-equal, where those devoted to the lover's path foregather. Impatient he as well, midst blather of the Luftmensch, and won't begrudge the act of giving alms to Bacchus. The aromatic tresses, too, are standard features of tavern men, slim-waisted, cypress-like, and handsome. Come, taverner, we're fated to remain uneasy until we undergo the rite required of adepts, that is, initiates into the mystical mystery. One way you can tell a man from a woman in these poems, I suddenly realize, is that although they all have fragrant and long tresses and narcissal eyes and ruby lips, the man is likely to be compared to a cypress. A woman is rarely compared to a cypress because I think they're not tall enough.
Okay. That's good to know. What does Luftmensch mean?
Oh, I got that from Yiddish. That's literally, it means an air. It's not the same as airhead, but the idea is a guy who lives in is his own dreamy world. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's Jami. And now let's turn to Hatifi, an extremely different poet who will dramatize the tremendous range in Sufi thought and writing. Poet prophet Hatifi, he lives from 1454 to 1529. Page 325, so about 20 pages over. And this is the very, 320. This is the very first in Hatifi.
Okay, I've got that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, one moment.
My Soul and Body, that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what have I called him? Yes, a prophet poet. This is a remarkable piece of writing.
Okay.
My soul and body I've resolved to dedicate to one who found them always offered on his way. To you belongs my heart, O source of beauty great. Creator hand, accept my offered life, I pray. To turn my heart aside from you indeed is hard. How easily the soul will breathe, returned to you. How steep the heaven way, yet entry is unbarred by longing's wound, for which no other cure will do. My eye and ear attend. Command me then, my lord. We all would blissful serve you with our heart, our hand. If peace you would prefer, the spirit will accord. If war, my life, your wish can never countermand. By love desire inflamed, with heated yearning filled, I felt pursued and devastated through the night, and ran amok with wilding eye till, luck instilled, I found at length the temple servant of your light. No look askance, a vaulted heaven then I viewed, by heaven blaze illumined, no mere worldly spark. Surrounded Moses-like, with rays by God endued, as in that wonder night upon Mount Sinai dark. A handsome gray beard, favored with a sacred glow, surrounded many a younger pious follower. Their brows were silver, cheeks a ruddy hue would show, mouth peach down soft, with lips that love alone aver. And here were lyre and flute, and a gentle harp and drum, carnation, rose, and musk, and bread of Alicant. Then cup boys, amber-scented, gold-haired youths would come, and merry singers' melody would high descant. The old, the young, the teacher, archpriest, every one, to help the eldest man most willingly would stay. Yet me, of humble faith, a shame had overcome. Toward a distant corner I had looked away. The elder, though, inquired, "Who's that one over there?" I answered, "One who loves, by ardor overthrown." Then he, "A goblet full of wine for him prepare, who, though invited guest, is yet to us unknown." A goblet full of wine was placed within my hand by him who served the fire with glowing hand and eye. One taste. I in a faint could nothing understand. By unbelief and faith, consumed and like to die, I drunkenly collapsed, and in my addled state I heard a voice, but how explain? No human could. It boomed above my head and had a thunder weight, so that within my veins the blood unmoving stood. "There is but one alone, no other God can be, and he alone is God, for there is none but he." Isn't that interesting? You just don't know what you're going to get. Here's my reply. I'll just go ahead and read the reply. Suspense in heightened life, wise allegoric chant, appealing to the heart, intriguing to the mind. The servant of the fire, mosaic hierophant, that's a priest. Both heart and soul reviving in a judgment kind. There's only one command, not 10, revere the Lord. The only ill that to the golden calf of old one might compare is love astray that won't accord with comprehension of a source that we are told. Each youth might be the golden comrade Rumi praised, while blooms and banquet wine would welcome a Hafiz, while cup boys with the wine their goblets high had raised. High Eden hymns might any Persian poet please. Mere madding wine of human ardor proving weak, the banquet catechumen gets a heaven drink. That lightning fire may be combined in strength unique with skyey thunder holy, that the soul may sink in deep surrender and remembering the storm that Moses on the mountain felt when he the law received, can feel a force beyond all worldly form and prostrate bow before the power of God in awe. Then only will he know what earlier he thought to be by ardor quite unmanned and overthrown. The one who never was in godly rapture caught, the cure for solitude must learn from one alone.
Mm.
You know, that's quite a remarkable poem because it is so single-heartedly and single-mindedly committed to God, and yet the appurtenances, the pageantry is all
Yes.
is very homoerotic, which backs it up. So there's not thought to be any problem of the mixing of moods.
Well, what I experience in it is the misery that he feels
Uh-huh.
and the attempt to escape it, I think.
That's true too. Yes.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't eager, but you know, it got a hold of him. I know that because I read all the translated 7 poems here, and he comes back a couple more times with the same kind of unremitting force. So that's why I call him the poet prophet. He's not just a lyricist for entertainment, but with a mission.
Yeah.
I thought of what I could compare this to, and it's difficult in English literature to come up with something, but I did. Listen to this. This is the next page, my blogatelle. The writing in Hatifi's initiatory poem is not merely lyrical, but epic. It aspires to, and in my view achieves, the grandeur of scripture. What came to mind was the great attempt at epic writing by the English poet John Keats, left unfinished, alas, by his untimely death. He died when he was 26 or so, which has come to us in 2 drafts. In the first, called Hyperion, Apollo himself experiences the revelation of an inclusive truth, which is so overpowering that it seems indeed to have been the event which made a god of him. And listen to what Apollo says in Keats. Knowledge enormous makes a god of me. Names, deeds, gray legends, dire events, rebellion, majesties, sovereign voices, agonies, creations and destroyings, all at once pour into the wide hollows of my brain and deify me as if some blithe wine or bright elixir peerless I had drunk and so become immortal. It's a complete overpowering, like that other poet who felt he was being defeated by faith and unbelief at the same time, because it was so incredible, not believable.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be our sample of Hatifi. Let's see. Now Hilali moves on, 1470 to 1521. We're getting positively modern.
Yeah.
I call him Seeker of the Eternal, and he offers a lament for what is gone on page 382.
I think I have it.
Really? O station altering?
Oh, no, I've got blood. It is not. Okay.
382. It's part section 7, Hilali, closing lament from the Prince and the Dervish. O station altering?
I'll get there.
Got it?
Almost. Yes, got it.
O station altering of creatures gone. Our vanished prince and dervish travel on. With Hezer cedar you the life spring taste, but spirit slips through drying lips in haste. If Jesus like you heaven to reach intend, yet guardian earth will get you in the end. If Joseph handsome you reflect the moon, you'll fall in fountain water all too soon. If ample life you've no alike enjoyed, yet peril of the flood you can't avoid. The one who is eternal, only he that was and is can everlasting be. Well, he looks at the same thing as that other poet did, only from a more negative point of view. With him, everything that he looks around at is unsatisfactory because it doesn't last, it vanishes.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't sound like he's dissatisfied, just reflecting that things pass.
Yes, yes, yes. What did I say? I call it lament for what is gone.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's melancholy, but it's not
Yeah.
grieving exactly.
Yeah.
So here's my reply to that. I have a hard time going along with that kind of a mood. Basically, I'm a cheerful
Good
guy.
for you.
Your lamentation duly I'll respect, but gladsome gratitude will not neglect. For when Al-Hidr by the spring I've seen, the mind of me is colored all in green. This is mysterious. We heard the tree, cedar tree, Al-Hizr, and here we hear a guy named Al-Hidr. That means the green man, and it's a mysterious figure in the Quran and in Islamic lore. There's some prophet called the green man. At one point, it's even asserted, I can't remember if it's in scripture or in commentary, that he taught Moses, some sort of a remnant of a nature spirit or nature god. Fascinating to see this. All right. And if I'm Christ-like martyred, still perchance with Zora and Messias I will dance. In other words, I'm going back to Hafiz. Hafiz is a more cheerful guy, even though in his solicitations in the tavern, he's usually turned down. He just goes.
He's cheerful about it.
He sits there and writes a poem about it, and usually he congratulates himself at the end, saying, "Hey, it wasn't a bad poem. It's not a surprise that they read me as even in China they read me." He does say that. Anyway, here I threw in the fact that he says, if Jesus like you, heaven to reach intend, yet guardian earth will get you in the end. And I write, if I'm Christ-like martyred, still perchance with Zora and Messias I will dance. That's where Hafiz explains that on the planet Venus, which is the planet of love, Venus lives there, but so does Jesus, who's the prophet of love. And when Hafiz writes his word songs, guess what? They dance. Jesus and Venus together, if you can picture that. And so I brought it in here. If in a Joseph jail no hope I see, Zuleika yet may heaven send to me. That's the Potiphar's wife who, what shall we say?
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't a happy episode in the Hebrew Bible, but she studied, she repented, and after decades she married Joseph. In Islam. In dozens of Islamic poets it happens. It's totally startling.
Yeah.
Should ocean rain like Noah's fall? Yet hark, I have his holy bottle for an ark. Remember, he was a bit of a drunkard, that Moses, or rather Noah. Right? Remember Noah? Noah was fond. You don't remember that?
No, I didn't.
Noah was fond of wine. There's a whole episode about him being drunk and being naked too, for that matter. And his sons walk in with respect; they walk backward, cover him up with something. So in Islamic tradition, the drunkenness of Noah and the arks are brought together by poets who say the connection is that the wine flask is a personal psychological ark. It saves you when you feel flooded.
That's good.
Within my heart, like that of Abraham, the one whose everlasting sang, I am. That's my cheerful reply.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll go on and read a blogatelle.
That's a good one, I think.
I care less than does Hilali about lasting or not lasting. The journey is the goal, the pilgrim in the seeker. For an interview in Indian, Persian, Arabian poetic treasures, I offered this. First, I translate a poem from Islamic tradition. Rickert translated it into German, and he did not attribute a source, so I don't know who the author is. But I like the poem, and I answer it. And it's called Al-Mansur's Death on a Pilgrimage. Said Al-Mansur when he upon his deathbed lay, in pilgrim month, my son, my natal hour befell. In pilgrim month did I begin my reign as well. So ever would my dying day in pilgrim month I felt occur. To lead a pilgrim life I ever would prefer. A pilgrim for a goal must aim, and I the blessed attainment of my own might claim. And here's my reply to that. A pilgrim life may teach the measurement of time. The pilgrim month of Ramadan will travel through the calendar entire. The hour when it is due must alter yearly. Therefore I'm made newly conscious of the fact that any season, any hour can grant the act that cleaves the daybreak and commends the higher station of divine command. Oh, blessed be every labor sanctifying hour and moment, micro, nanosecond swift, to let a new disclosure human spirits lift, infuse in nerve a music power, the love steed of the mind to drive, that lightnings me in him when I am most alive. O pilgrim peregrine, yours be the falcon call of heart supreme, serene. Let me continue, pray, the melody begun, nor fear to fall, or fall because the spirit wing might weary of the sun ray in its airy fling. For I've a higher, lighter sun that heats my living creature blood beyond what warmth might tire in force of glory flood. Enticing lore is mine, that mind has mind of auroral heart life wine. You know, you can take that apart if you're a literature lecturer, and but you do get the point. I think I made the point super clear. And if you, I like the idea of dying in the pilgrim month, because his reign began then and his life began then, so he should die then. But I also point out that the pilgrim month is Ramadan, and because of the lunar calendar, it circulates throughout the year.
Yes.
Therefore, the pilgrim month is any month at all.
Yes, yes.
So now we have Fezi. Let's try Fezi. 1547 to 1595. I call him a Platonist poet, and I exemplify him on 413, nearly at the end of the book, section 7. The spirit's nourishment. Fezi. F-A-I-Z-I.
Yeah, I've got that. I'm just, okay, I got it.
He's a Platonist poet, and I call this poem From Earth to Heaven. The spirit's nourishment is lips' enchantment. Harut Marut, the brilliant eyes angelic. Fresh lips surrounding down might well seem verdant. Who placed the emerald to suit the rubies? For viewer murdered by your slender figure, a heaven lotus, wooden coffins needed. O doctor of my soul, that means teacher, pray hand me sherbet. We are in Persia, aren't we? That's the that's the standard refreshment there. It may restore to youth a man who's aging. One glance and I could feel the pinions growing. So let me fly away with birds of Eden. You shall deny, Fezi, the lover's pathway. To lose mere humanness, the rule is primal. So the guy he's in love with is so handsome, he would just assume it gives him wings to fly to heaven. That's good enough. Even love itself doesn't compare with what he's just been through, and he's ready to leave. Try the next life. And I got a reply to that. What leaps to mind? A grave Socratic legend. I don't know if you've heard this. By Alcibiades, the man was tempted, that's Socrates himself, and lay beside him all the night, yet morning awoke and found him only spirit ravished. Platonic ladder, if a human body you love, a heaven to the soul is opened. A pilgrim on the way of the ascetic we call salik, the seeker of completion, or tarifat. To reach it, the disciple will need a discipline of high inquiring, to contemplate the mental forms Platonic, or hear the names of God in Sufi doctrine. Yes, it placed, it was a kind of a bet, whether Socrates could spend the night lying beside Alcibiades and never touch him at any time. Socrates had no trouble, and Alcibiades was slightly mortified, but he admitted that he was being taught by a very good philosophy teacher.
Yes, his insides weren't as great as his outsides.
Yeah.
Alcibiades, that is.
So now, here's my next page. Turn to the page, and then I say, the translator bids farewell to Fezi.
Mm-hmm.
The greenness of the facial downs the emblem of youth, as too of youthful blood the rubies, a creature testament to God's perfection as maker of the body and the spirit. The beauty of the man appears new-fashioned to laud the blue-eyed loveliness of heaven. Catharsis 'twill accomplish in the singer, to annihilate the self, to quell the ego. The lover's pilgrim pathway is reshapen. It has become, behold, the road to heaven. He's ready for the death of selfish wanting, and new-grown wings will ready him for heaven. This is a nice way to go to heaven.
Sure is.
Now we have one more poet, and guess what? We have time for our poet. This is Saib, the last of the 200 poets in von Hammer's book.
Okay.
So I think that von Hammer wanted it to be, no, actually it isn't. He put Fezi next, but I had to correct the chronology. Anyway, 1592 to 1676, page 415, and I call this man Poet of the Middle Path. 415.
Okay. Well,
okay. Don't lay earth's burden on a heart that's ill, but nest build lightly on a branch of rose. Move hand away from body, joy the soul. The eye is mirror to a mirror knower. Draw fiery circles to compel the world. The hardest bow is gentle made by flame. To you the rosewood tidings freshly bring. Of spring and autumn shape a single goblet. As poison taken slowly makes immune, in stages make your soul aware of death. The heart within its limit won't be pure, as cords abrade and rub away the iron. Who analyze the alchemy of love will turn the marrow into arid bone. Don't think to stand upon your honor fast. The rungs upon that ladder are too fragile, and constancy the heaven itself will lack. Why look for steadiness in act and deed? Remove yourself if you would not be scorned, and never bite on less than worthy morsel. You'll likelier be offered purest pearl, when once your lips are pure as mussel shell. A single tear inertia wipes away, and stream-like even carries off your sleep. If you would of perfection be the guest, give up the path that leads to pointless effort. If marrowless, the world's but hollow bone. Saib, you'd better throw it to the dogs. Here's my reply. A philosophic writer's our Saib, claimed Hammer, one who chose a middle path. A golden road between the mystic height of Rumi and the tavern of Hafiz. The Scylla and Charybdis he'll evade by steering clearly through the strait between. Of reason and of understanding both, he thus in Hammer's view will bear the fruit. Of proverb vigor fond, he's Saadi-like, a necklace made of aphorism gems, or so I feel, and thus would justify his honored name, the penetrating one. To build a nest on rosebough may suggest that pleasures of the world, a godly gift, will make our human life more marrow-rich and worthier to live. Yet with a slow and daily measured dose of stoic thought, we're immunized against a twofold threat of pointless effort, and to the fear of death. Enjoy then every season charm, distill them all to make a liquor of our life, and though it's better to remain unsoiled by shallow aims and by ambitious pride, be open to emotion's wider scope. The tear that will inertia wipe away can stir the body into spirit force. Well, he's working hard to achieve his middle path there, thinking about joys on the one hand, sensual pleasures, and then thinking about how small doses of a poison can make you immune. And you should think about death now and then, and gradually you'll accustom yourself to the idea. Good things are good, though they don't last.
Well, not bad. The tear that will inertia wipe away. What does that mean?
Oh, well, a tear might be thought to be sadness and melancholy,
yes,
something you don't want, but it wipes away inertia. It's
it may wipe away. Okay, I was thinking that inertia would wipe away the tear. Okay.
Oh, it's hard to tell. In poetry, sometimes you need syntactical agility because
okay. Okay.
There's a lot. Islamic literature and folklore have a lot to say about tears. Supposedly, the tears, when you cry, your eyes get red. That's because the tears themselves contain a certain amount of blood from a loving heart.
Oh, that's nice. Huh. This has been very, very nice, really.
Well, I'll tell you, it has made it tenfold more pleasant to be able to share it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to all you listeners.